What'll be will be. What'll be will be. You ever heard that? What'll be will be. It is what it is. Hear people say that all the time. It is what it is. What'll be will be. You know who the first person was to probably say that, at least biblically? Was that fat pig Eli. You guys know about Eli, right? Prophet of God. Eyes were dim with age. He couldn't see in the natural. He could no longer even see in the spiritual. He was just all jacked up. He was old and fat. Sitting in a chair, and he rocked back too far when he heard that the Ark of God was taken and that Israel was defeated by the Philistines. He rocked back and he broke his full neck. Eli. La Carasara. That Eli. What'll be will be. Is what it is. That's what he said. When they told him, they said, your sons don't practice in your ways. They're taking women behind the curtain. And they weren't out there ministering to the women behind the curtain. They weren't laying hands. Well, maybe they were laying hands on them, but not in a good way. Not in an appropriate way. So they were doing women behind the curtain, eating the fat of the offering. And old Eli said, what'll be will be. La Carasara. Is what it is. Eli. Does it behoove anybody that our generation actually sounds like Eli? I mean, you know, I wasn't even going to bring this up. Or maybe I was, I don't know. But I was out there working today and I realized that it's so true what the Apostle Paul said. When I do good, when I want to do good, evil is present with me. I'm picking up an order. And Brother Ken, you've been friends with me longer than anybody. Since we were 10 years old. Even though we lost touch, you know, I understand you were married, you had kids. You were doing the adult things, man. You were doing the good things. I was just a wild donkey out there, but I was serving the Lord. So I was a donkey that was serving the Lord. But anyway, the reason I said that is you knowing me longer than anybody, and you know the story I'm about to tell, that back in the day, this person would have not got away with what they got away with me today. And you know, stuff like that happens often, actually, and I just let it go. And I'm sitting there about to pick up an order, and I hear someone say, "Sir, can you get out of my way, please?" I'm just like, first off, that alone would have been a trigger for me to go off before. And so I'm already annoyed, but I'm like, whatever. I said, "Oh, sorry." And either this fool put his hand on me and pushed me out of the way, or he brushed past me. So I turned and I looked, and I see this. Brother Ken, just picture Terry. Back when I fought him back in 1990, what was that? Was it 93? Okay. You know, I was a lot smaller guy then too, right? So just picture Terry, okay? Spitting image of Terry. And I'm, you know, around 200 pounds now. Out of shape. Legs messed up. But just think what crossed my mind. And I thought about it. I looked at this fool and I'm like, okay. Didn't say nothing. But I was thinking about it. And I almost decided to walk over and sock this dude right in the jaw. And I looked, and where I was at, picking up the order, I like, man, there's cameras in here everywhere. If I do this, I'm going to jail. And I'm not 18 years old beating the hell out of Terry, which should have never happened anyway. Me and that dude were friends, but he was one of those guys. He was into martial arts and karate. I think he was into karate, actually. It was karate, right, Ken? It was karate. But anyway, I was into boxing, and he says, yeah, he says, no, I could take you because of this art's better, this and that. And we were friends, so it was cool. I didn't, I was like, yeah, whatever, man. And then we ended up getting in a fight, and we found out whether or not karate was better than boxing in that situation. So just picture that. But I realized the fact that I thought about it. I didn't just think about it, I almost did it. I came really close. I said, but if I do this, I'm going to jail. And I'm probably going to have to fight someone a lot tougher and meaner in jail, and I might not come out on top. So I said, well, you better just let that go. It's no big deal. But evil was present with me. Apostle Paul says, I want to do good, but evil is present with me. We're dualistic in nature. We're going to be like that until we die. We hate to be the bearer of bad news. You could be filled with the Holy Spirit, which I am. You could be following God and Jesus, which I do. And you're still going to have evil on the inside of you. The Bible tells us when we see him, we'll be like him. This is to keep my mouth from getting dry. Probably not the best thing for me to drink, right? Being I need to lose some weight anyway. What do you think, Rocky? I need to lose some weight, huh? But anyway, when we see him, we'll be like him. Until then, it's a treasure in an earthen vessel. That's why Doc Scott could piss everybody off and still be the best Bible teacher of the 20th century. Where other believers would say, oh, I don't know if he's in heaven. What do you mean you don't know if he's in heaven? Does he believe Jesus Christ rose from the dead? Is he in covenant with God? Then what do you mean you don't know if he's going to heaven? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You don't know if he's going to heaven because he doesn't look like you, act like you, talk like you, behave like you? That is straight nonsense. That has nothing to do with whether or not he's going to heaven. You know, Jesus' disciples walked through a cornfield, and they began to shuck corn on the Sabbath, right? They began to eat the corn. They went in and there was his disciples, right, that did that. And Jesus said they were blameless because he was the Lord of the Sabbath. King David goes, they're running, right? They're running from Saul. He goes to the priests and he eats the showbread, and he says, and the priest says, well, have you at least abstained from women? He says, yeah, we abstained for 3 days. So he eats the bread that was only for the priests. But David was blameless because he was God's man, because he was in covenant with God. Now, was God happy when he did the idiotic and stupid things that he did? Probably not. In fact, I know he didn't like the fact that he killed Uriah the Hittite, took his wife, slept with her, got her pregnant. To cover up the fact he got her pregnant, he sent Uriah home to sleep with her because it was his wife. And he said, man, the Ark of Covenant is gone. The men are in the field. My brothers in Israel are in the field fighting. How can I come home and eat, drink, and be merry and sleep with my wife? So he was acting more righteous than David. But he wasn't the apple of God's eye. David was acting like a chump. Evil. He was acting evil, actually. So he sends him out to the battle to die, tells him to pull away from him, so he's struck down. So he basically murdered him. Still the apple of God's eye. The man after God's own heart. But God was pissed. God wasn't happy with that. He's not happy with innocent people dying. Doesn't make him happy. It was Deuteronomy, actually, that I couldn't remember what the scripture was. Where God speaking, he says, I kill, I make alive. There's no one like me. God kills if he wants to kill because it's his creation. When he takes us home, isn't that killing us? Come on home. Doesn't mean it's a punishment. He's not up there like a serial killer in a cloud. That's not how God is. He's not rejoicing when he throws someone into hell. In fact, he's not rejoicing when they choose to go to hell because he gave them the opportunity to be saved. He gave us all the opportunity to be saved by offering his son, his only begotten son, the very piece, the very essence, part of himself, actually. He offered himself for those that would believe, for those that would receive that. It's raining and the wind is blowing. So I take it all the wild animals out here are probably hiding, or they'll probably be crawling under my trailer here pretty soon. I got Rocky a new grave that I'm setting up. I got these those rocks. I got to get a fluorescent light because they're those glow rocks, and I got them around where I buried them. Then I'm gonna get them a headstone. I'll show you guys, or maybe even do a message in front of it some night. I'll just walk with the camera in and then come in and do the message, something like that. It's harder to do this without you pushing the button, Earl. But looks like Earl's still alive, ladies and gentlemen, because he commented on the YouTube video. So Earl, I'm glad you're still among the living. You know, I hadn't heard from you for a long time. As I told you before, I don't answer my phone. If you want to get a hold of me, text me or hit me up on Messenger on Facebook. You do have a Facebook, right? Hope everything's good. But yeah. It's a journey of faith, guys. It's a journey. Pastor Daniel, I'm going to do everything in my power. First of all, as I already told you guys on Facebook, happy anniversary, Pastor Daniel. And Sister Vivian, happy anniversary. 35 years, that is amazing. You know, I mean, most people in this generation don't make it past 5. In fact, that's another thing that had me pissed off the other day. I think it was 2 days ago. I bit, if you all could believe this, I bit my tongue. I didn't say anything. I almost wanted to. Young kid, you know, ringing up my groceries, cat food, all the junk I'm buying, food. And he's talking about how he's been with his girl 7 years and they want to do a ceremony, but they don't want to get married. What kind of stupidness is that? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, I don't want to. We don't want to get married. We're together. We're already committed. To me, that is bullcrap. I'm sorry, it's bullcrap. That's like spitting in God's face. You don't want to get married. Even I got married, even though it didn't end up being a real marriage. I attempted to honor God. I mean, hell, if I didn't want to honor God, I just would have just slept around and been with whoever I wanted and stayed that way. But you're shacking up with your woman and you don't want to marry her. So what you're saying really is you do not want to honor God. You have no respect for God. I don't understand that. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just stupid, right? Maybe I am a bigot. Maybe I'm closed-minded. I believe this Word of God. I believe this book. Brother Ken, you can tell me in the comments, how long have you and Colleen been married? How long you guys been married? Wait a minute. I should know the answer to this because I was your best man. I think it was 1997, right? 97? So you guys are creeping up on 30 years. They did it right. They got married and they've stayed together and they've had 3 boys. In fact, your one son, it cracks me up when I see him on Facebook because he looks exactly like you looked at that age when we were out there, when we were tough guys back in the day, actually. But, yeah, so I don't understand that, man. I listen to this. I understand why people, when they're old, they're mad. I understand why they say, get off my lawn, like you did, like Clint Eastwood did in that movie. I get it. I understand. You know, people think that God is a fairy tale, he's a fable, that Jesus wasn't real, or they're gonna be in for a shock and a surprise when he comes back. He's coming back as the judge. He's coming back to fight. The blood will flow to a bridle of a horse in Megiddo. The battle of Armageddon. That is not a fable. That is not a fairy tale. That is a fact. A fact. He's coming back and he's going to kick some butt. And for him to do it, it's righteous because he's God. So he has the right to do that. It's his creation. He can do what he wants with it. He's going to do some mashing. There's these things during the Great Tribulation, these things called frog demons. They're going to go and grab people because there's going to be some people that are smart enough to realize, oh, this is what those Christians were talking about. Let me get the hell out of here. Let me get away from here. Let me get as far away from this valley as I can. Let me go hide somewhere. And they're going to open their eyes in the Valley of Megiddo because some frog demon came and grabbed them and took them there. That should scare people. That should scare them. You know, I heard a preacher today, just briefly on the radio. Didn't get into much of what he was saying, but he did say something that was pretty cool, pretty good. He said that a person that's an atheist, they've passed judgment on whether or not God is real or not. So now they have become their own God. That's exactly right. They become their own God without God. That's right. That's a good word. Sounds like there's an owl or something out there punting around. There's always something out here. But anyway, my friend Nancy I used to work with at one of the casinos. She loves owls. So I guess I'll be nice to the owl. But anyway, it's probably a white owl. They have white owls out here. So let's see, we got white owls, we got coyotes, we got raccoons, we got a bunch of cats, a bunch of wild dogs, and what else is crawling around out here? There's something walking out there now. It's probably a cat or the raccoon. But yeah, he's coming back as the judge. Today is the day of salvation. You might say, Rick, you're just all doom and gloom. No. If God didn't love you, if he didn't love his creation, he wouldn't have sent his son. He wouldn't give you the opportunity to be saved. You know, there's plenty of jerks that God gives the opportunity to be saved. They're still jerks, they're just saved jerks. Then eventually they mature into the things of God and grow up into the Lord. You don't stop being a jerk overnight. You don't stop being a moron overnight. But the Bible tells us that Jesus was the light of men, the intelligence of men. So as you follow Christ, you can become less of a moron. Figure it out. Figure it out. What'll be, will be. What'll be, will be. This world is all jacked up. That's what'll be. Christ is coming back. You know, at Popeyes, they tolerate me there. They're good to me there. And one of the guys in there, he asked me, he says, hey, let me ask you something. He says, is he coming, is Jesus coming back? Is it the end? Is he coming back? I said, well, all I know is if it doesn't happen in September or October, you got at least another year. Because the Bible tells us that no man knows the time, knows the hour. That means no man knows the date that he's coming back, except God himself. But it'll be during the Feast of Trumpets, which is September or October. So we know what months, we know the approximate time he's coming, just don't know the year. It could be September, October 50 years from now. It could be September, October this year. We don't know. Nobody knows. Every generation thought he was coming back immediately. Every generation died, and they met Jesus afterwards and found out that there's still people being born on this earth and this planet, and the cup's not full yet, and God's not ready to pour his wrath on the earth during the tribulation yet. The Great Tribulation is not for Christians, by the way. It's because God promised the Jews a certain amount of time period, and he owes them 7 years. So that's why the Great Tribulation is 7 years. It's for the Jews to get saved during that time period. Not for Christians. Our dispensation, our time is now. I thought I heard a cat cry. You guys are going to see me walk off and go shoot this raccoon if I have to. But, no, I didn't sound like a death cry. It sounded like it was whining for food. It's probably looking for food. Probably knows I'm in here and saying, why aren't you feeding me? But anyway. So God owes the Jews 7 years. That's why it's the Great Tribulation. That's why that time will happen. The day of salvation is now. The time of salvation is now. The church age is now. Meaning you receive Jesus now. The Bible tells us that every knee will bow, every tongue confess that Jesus Christ of Nazareth is indeed Lord. So you're going to do it in this life or the next. If you do it in the next, you're done. I'm sorry, you're done. You're toast. I'm trying to use nicer adjectives here, guys. But now is the time to be saved. It doesn't cost you anything. Well, it costs you everything, actually. It costs you your life. But to initially come to Jesus, it doesn't cost you anything. But then you can no longer live for yourself. You got to live for God. You got to give him his time. Pastor Daniel, what I was going to say, I'm going to attempt to get out there tomorrow. Told you I'd go. That means I intend to go. Now, whether or not I'm on time, that's another story. I'm going to have to get up early tomorrow. Got to do some work to make sure I have the cash to get out there. And then after the meeting, I got to go to work because I got to have cash to get stuff taken care of that I need to take care of here. Basically, I live day to day, which is kind of whacked. That's what happens when you don't have a real job, when you have a gig job. But didn't the Israelites do that? Didn't they live day to day? I don't know, I'm just saying. I know that they did make God mad out in the wilderness, though, when they were doing that, so maybe it's not such a good option after all. But anyway, what'll be will be. Let's not be like Eli. Eli jacked up. From hero to bum. Judging Israel for 40 years to not being able to see past his own nose. Not straighten out his stupid jerk kids that were defiling and dishonoring God. This generation's a lot like Eli. No respect for God or man, mainly for God. What they don't understand is one day they're going to answer to God. Answer to Jesus. And he's not going to come up to them grinning and smiling like some imbecile. He's coming as the judge. He's coming as the king. Because he is the king and he is the judge. Does he love you? Yeah, he loves you. But he's not going to reward you for doing wrong. He's not going to reward you for living a life of unbelief and disfaith. He's not going to do that. He's going to reward those that endure till the end. Endure till the end. They keep the faith. They keep on faithing, keep on trusting. That are willing to serve him. So what'll be will be. La Cara Sera is what it is. Let's not be like Eli. Let's be like servants of the Most High God. Eli lost his way. He was all jacked up. That's the message.